Welcome back, everybody, to our incredible 50-hour online vigil in solidarity with WikiLeaks editor-in-chief Julian Assange. I'm joined now by our friend Noah from Avenue of Intrigue. Over there in Hawaii, it looks totally gorgeous, and I'm a little bit jealous. Hi, how are you, Noah?
Well, Susie, thank you so much for having me on, and thanks for putting this together.
You're so welcome. Thank you for being
It's
here.
truly like a feat of large magnitude. 50 hours. Are you kidding me? 50 hours doing this. That shows how passionate you are and how passionate many people that volunteer for this are around the world, at making sure that Julian Assange isn't stuck in that embassy anymore. And then, more importantly, what happens when he gets out? Because, he's brought so much light into this world that, I can't even imagine. Can you imagine the world before Julian Assange? It was just like so much of a really a darker place, just a darker place in general. It's just crazy to think, where we've come from, what is it, 2010 to now, how magnificent is this that you're seeing like the worldwide dismantling of this, global system that's put in place of people that are, there's no other word to describe than absolute evil. When I look at Julian Assange, I look at him as, being used by God. You know what I mean? He whether he knows it or not, he's brought into this world to bring light into it. And, I hope people know that. I hope people recognize that at some point he had to make a decision. What are you going to do when they come after you? Because that's going to happen. That you're going to make enemies. And, I'd like to maybe talk to you about this, maybe some kind of insight of maybe, what Julian has talked with you or talked with everybody else about, as to what drives him to do what he's doing. Because to me, I look at it like it's got to be like this incredible internal calling. You know what I mean? You're just going to sacrifice your entire life. You're going to sacrifice your life with your kids and your mom and, your dad and your family and whatever, in order to try and make this world a better place, and
Principles over comfort.
Yeah, principles over comfort, and so I kind of look at this from a spiritual standpoint. Like for instance, in the Bible it says, "Greater love has no man than a man that lays down his life for his friends," and I believe that he'll be blessed as a result of that, and I'm praying for him. I know this is maybe not a popular thing to say or to talk about, but hey, life is uncomfortable sometimes. And, at this point, things seem hopeless, but we're going to do what we can do to bring awareness and bring light and really help fulfill this vision that he had of transparency in government and, making it so kids don't have to be subject to the terrible things that they're being subject
like you just said about what was the world like before WikiLeaks, and it's so easy to take for granted. Like having had WikiLeaks, it's so easy to take them for granted. But you talk about the future and what we want for our kids. I think we all want our kids to have access to WikiLeaks, to have access to authentic information, that educates them about the world that's around them and about the true nature of power and how it works and of what's really going on in society, not just what we're told is going on in society.
That's exactly right. And then you mentioned his mom, what his mom must be going through right now. No, if she's watching this, she's in my heart. She's in the Avenue of Community's hearts. She's in my family's hearts all the time. You know, I'm praying for him. I'm trying to put the word out about what's going on, trying to have a shift in the global consciousness of what's really going on. And I think part of that is uh communicating with maybe the baby boomer generation that's been brought up with the mainstream media just completely controlling this narrative for so long, trying to put forth the truth and to keep talking about it, have conversations with your communities, your elders, the elderly people in society, and let them know that, hey, what these politicians are saying about Julian, it's not true. It's not true. And there's how many millions of pages of examples on WikiLeaks that show it's just not true. It's just these folks, these evil people that have been controlling things and thinking that, hey, this law, it doesn't apply to me. It applies to the chumps at the bottom. We're just going to throw everybody in prison that we don't like, and we're going to continue to make money off of the backs of human suffering. We're not going to. They're liars. They're going to lie, and we're not going to allow it to continue any longer. And I think, where this maybe started to become a big thing, and I'm sure this is what got this started, is like the age of the internet. That maybe it was created by government entities for military purposes or whatever, and then they thought, well, we're going to give this to mankind and we're going to enslave mankind through it. We're going to make it so we're going to create this entire 1984 authoritarian state. And in a lot of the world, some parts of the world, they've succeeded to a great deal. But then with that comes, hackers, with that comes challenges to what is being done. With that comes the balance to that, saying, hey, wait a minute, wait. I'm starting to see with this technology things that I'm not liking about what's going on in the government. What's going on in Iraq.
Someone just said on Twitter, if Julian falls, we all fall. If he fails, we all fail. Do you agree with that?
I think at this point, I would say if this were the case 10 years ago, that might have been the case, because I feel like he's like maybe the key to the Pandora's box, or the initial earthquake to the tsunami that is headed toward shore right now. I think now there are so many people out there speaking the truth and not afraid to go out there and to stand up to this evil entity that controls the world. I think, God forbid, if something were to happen, it would just accelerate even more, because then Julian Assange.
You think it will galvanize? It will galvanize.
Absolutely. The fact that my parents, by the way, I grew up in Michigan. My parents both conservative Christians, okay, and I've been talking with them about Julian Assange. They're on board with what's going on with WikiLeaks. I've been talking with my grandma about this. Okay. Wow. They're supporting WikiLeaks. And I think that's the thing that should really terrify those people up there that have been getting away with these things. You've got a choice right now. You can either surrender and ask for forgiveness, or you can continue doing what you're doing, and you're going to get exposed, and you're going to have to face the wrath of the people when it happens. And I don't think it's going to be much longer. I really don't. You just seeing you watched all these hearings going on, You watch the revelations coming out, the stuff that's been declassified as of late, and it's just like, oh my gosh, can it get much worse? And the answer is yes, it can get much worse. And that's being revealed as well. So, you know, like, prepare for it. But pretty much the worst possible things you can think have been done. And if it wasn't for Julian just taking that step, you know, and Suzie, by the way, too, you know, and several others, if it wasn't for you guys taking that step and listening to the voice on the inside that said, you know what, I've got to do what I've got to do because I want to have a future for my children. You know, I want to really protect the children around the world. I think that's a big part of it, you know, because if you raise kids that get screwed up by this stuff, you know, like you mentioned, war-torn countries and stuff, you know, dropping missiles on countries, right? How is that kid going to be able to handle that, exposed to that sort of trauma, you know, where they've seen their family members killed, you know, they've seen things that kids shouldn't ever have to see. You think they're going to be happy with the military that was responsible for dropping those weapons? You think they're going to be happy with the Central Intelligence Agency, you know, that messes around about the world? No, they're not, you know, and that really applies for everywhere. You know, you've got to raise kids in a loving environment, you know, where they have every opportunity that they need so that they can become successful adults. Because if they don't have it, you know, they're going to have to deal with a lot of pain and a lot of heartache. And that pain and that heartache is some of the reason why you see these people that do the evil things that they do in Washington, D.C. I think they're going to get away with it, or around the world, you know, and all forms of corrupt government all over the place. You know, it's just, I don't know. I'm kind of getting on a rant, you know, but, you know, that's kind of what's been on my heart lately about this whole thing is, you know, I believe, you know, Julian he's following what he was put on this earth to do. And if it wasn't for him, the world would be a much worse place than it is right now. And we're taking it out. And so I think right now, you know, with his mom and I guess his dad, right, and his kids and what they're having to go through, you know, just know like how much your son means to all of us. Okay. That he was willing to, you know, risk himself, risk his life to make things better for us. And I hope you're proud of that. And I hope you know that we're going to do everything we can to protect him, you know, and try and protect him no matter who we got to talk to, no matter how often we have to get on line and, you know, speak up on the media, whatever else. We are not going to let them try and disappear Julian Assange. It's not going to happen. And any government that tries to, including if it's my government, there's going to be hell to pay. I hope you know that. You know, Julian Assange is going to be well protected. And I know there's some fear, you know, if he comes out of that embassy that maybe somebody will take a shot. No, it's not going to happen. He's going to be protected because he has work to do on this earth, and he's done a lot already. And, you know, I think right now they're trying to break him. I will say that, by not having any communication, by not having any sunlight, you know, he's just sitting in that embassy. Like you said, like people are outside, you know, just letting him know, hey man, we support you. We love you. You know, take care of yourself. Because it must be very long.
What a remarkable, I mean, just trying to put yourself in those shoes even for 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Just trying to put yourself in the shoes of sitting in a room for 6 years, but then having and knowing that the greatest, most powerful forces in the world are trying to break you, as you just said, but hearing the voices of hundreds of people chanting that they're with you on the other side of the wall.
Right. It all goes back to that light versus darkness thing. You know, if you're in a dark room, the match is enough to illuminate the room, okay? If Julian Assange is in the darkest place in his life right now, and they're trying to break him, and they're trying to, they're trying to do it. They're trying to break him. They're trying to get him to like, do whatever to himself. They're trying to break his spirit. One person outside of that window saying, "Hey, I support you," can be enough for life versus death. I think that's important. So don't underestimate what little power each one of us have to make things better for one, to follow in his footsteps, to follow in his footsteps and really, continue the fight every single day, but also to realize that, if it wasn't for him, then, we wouldn't have some of the opportunities that we have now. And don't forget that he's in the embassy. You know what I mean? Even though the United States government decides, we have Pompeo going out and saying what a terrible person Julian Assange is. I think Jeff Sessions was saying some stuff. Look, Pompeo got to go. Sessions, you got to go too. You don't support Julian Assange, we don't support you. You got to go. Should have been gone months ago. Yeah, I think that's what I had to say about that.
That's amazing. I'm actually getting a bit teary for the first time on the stream so far, just listening to what you were saying before about Julian's mum and his family. And it's so important for people to realize that he is a flesh and blood human being, that he is like any of us. He's exceptionally talented, exceptionally gifted, but he's still a human being. He still has basic human needs, and you're right that he's chosen to sacrifice, and he shouldn't have to make that choice. I think this is the dangerous thing when we talk about, someone's courageous because they've chosen to be subjected to this. It's, in some ways, it's kind of victim blaming, because he shouldn't have to choose suffering. He shouldn't have to choose losing access to his kids in order to do something ethical and moral. And this is how messed up our world is, that the most ethical and the most moral people are not only having to suffer and pay a price to be ethical and moral, but are then being talked about in these terms of, you chose to be ethical and moral, therefore you chose suffering. This is fair. This is unnatural.
That is very right, and that is very fair, and it's an example of how twisted the world is and has been for a long time, where lies become the truth, where evil becomes good, and it goes unchecked and unchecked and unchecked, and pretty soon it's the good people that you're throwing in prison, and the bad people get promotions. The bad people get away with scot-free with stuff. So you're absolutely right. This society is backward, but anytime anybody tries to bring goodness into this world, unfortunately, because of the nature of the world, there's going to be struggle. And, it shouldn't be that way. It definitely shouldn't be that way, but this world shouldn't be like this, either. That's why we got to get to the closest we can to really taking back our sovereignty as people, because, they really haven't done a very good job, policing themselves and holding themselves accountable. We've got to have more accountability for sure in government. We've got to, November 2018 is coming up. Okay. Our elections, our midterm elections, and there's 10 or so Congress people that just said that Julian Assange needs to have his asylum.
The list, and WikiLeaks published the list of the names.
And I want you guys to pay attention on that list. And if you're in those districts and they're up for re-election, remember that. Remember it. Because if these same people get re-elected again, we can't have that. You know what I mean? We got to have people that are going to support Julian. And fortunately, there are a few good Congress people out there that have actively said that they support Julian Assange that have come and visited him. And, I hope they continue that, and we'll continue keeping up the pressure on that. But like you mentioned, by the way, like you put a picture of like Nelson Mandela and Julian Assange on the Unity for J thing. And you've mentioned it a few times. And I think that's really like a good kind of comparison. Nelson Mandela was in prison for what, 20 something years?
26, I believe.
Yeah, 26 years he was in prison because he was out there standing up for some things that were wrong in South Africa, the apartheid and that sort of thing. Okay. They threw him in prison for 26 years. One of the things that, that keeps coming to my mind specifically is I seem to recall that Nelson Mandela had this moment of utter, like he felt like loneliness. He felt despair. He felt like nobody was with him. And I have to imagine that, that Julian must, when it's nighttime and, he's by himself, he must go through those things. And I hope somehow he hears this. Know that we're with you. Know that we pray for you. Know that there's people around this world thinking about you all the time. You are not alone in this moment. And there will be a day when you walk free and you will be pardoned of whatever supposed crimes that they have. And you're going to be protected. I have complete faith, and that's what's going to happen to him.
Mandela said that the knowledge that the Free Mandela movement was organizing and taking action on his behalf was like a ray of sunshine shining into his prison cell. And I just say that there are some other really good parallels between Mandela and Assange in terms of the treatment being meted out to them, the methodology used to hurt them and harm them, because Mandela also was disappeared from the public view. They didn't just incarcerate him, they made it illegal to print a photo of Mandela. It was against the law to even show a photo of him in public.
Wow.
That's how scared they were of his ability to become a rallying point, a rallying cry to the general public. And it seems that with Julian, they're doing the same thing. By keeping him out of communication, he can't give interviews, he can't, meet with people. They're denying him that physical presence on the planet. They're trying to hide him away.
Yeah, well, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. They're trying it. It's not going to work. I mean, like you guys show pictures. There's people outside like all the time, lending support, chanting, singing. That's got to help so immensely, unless they got that thing soundproof, which I don't believe they do. I think didn't you mention his window was open? He was able to hear.
Yeah. A couple of times when there's been musicians they're playing for him too, his window's been open, which is like quite amazing.
That's got to make such a difference, such a morale booster, and I think there's a bright future for him. Is he going to become the president or prime minister of Australia? I don't know.
Kim.com
happened with Mandela.
Yeah, Kim.com said on our last stream, he said, a day will come where presidents and prime ministers will line up to shake hands with Julian Assange.
You better believe it. You better believe it, because he was tasked. He was tasked with something. He brought light into this world, and it's going to be blessed. He's going to be blessed, even though he's having to go through all this struggle right now. I don't know. I'm trying to think of words to say, besides like.
Oh God, you've been so eloquent. You've been very, very, very eloquent. This is actually really powerful. The thoughts and the sentiments that you've been sharing with us, because it's so abundantly apparent just watching you how deeply you feel it.
Absolutely, and it's the same. It's the same all over the place, like everywhere. I know just a handful of people, that watch my channel and stuff that I talk with regularly. They feel the same way. You know what I mean? They're not going to forget that. They're not going to forget Julian Assange. And that really should terrify those up at the top. The fact that I'm on here, you know, where I come from politically, and we're together and we're talking and we're sharing, you know, we're having what I think is a pleasant and enjoyable conversation, you know, and Suzie came on my show just recently too. And it was great. You know, it was an intelligent conversation. It was good. Went on for a few hours. I would have liked to have gone on a lot longer. I could talk with Suzie for days, you know, but I think good people are good people, you know, like you recognize the goodness in others, you know, and you recognize Julian Assange's heart and what he's doing, you know, that brings about loyalty, that brings about respect and unity. You know, it's not going to be about partisan lines on this one. It won't be.
That's such a good point, because you and I are at opposite ends of the political spectrum, and yet we love talking to each other. And you know, I've loved being interviewed by you, and I love you being here and me interviewing you now.
Yeah, I love it too. But we've got to have more of this. We've got to do this. You know, enough of this, like, you know, I mean, you go through Twitter, you've seen Twitter, you've seen like, thank God you're in Russia, because like the atmosphere in the United States is like, whoa. We're in desperate need of, you know, some unity and some love and some healing. And, you know, what better way to unite than behind Julian Assange?
That's a great point. I think somewhere, somehow, people need to have someone tell them it's okay to disagree. It's okay to believe different things. It's okay to have a different position. It's almost like they need that license, because once they hear that message, they realize the thirst that they had, and that thirst is sated, and they run with it. And I'm seeing this happen every day in our movement. People like they can finally breathe, to discover a space where it doesn't matter who they voted for. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, they can be friends with people without even knowing who they voted for, or, you know, anything political or whatever, where they can work on projects together, and it doesn't matter, you know, what the background is.
This evil oppression.
Yeah,
this evil oppression, this curse that's been over us is lifted. It's gone, and Julian's a part of that, and frankly, you're a part of that, you know. And I mean, you mentioned all the work you're doing to, you know, put this together, right? 20 plus hours, right, before you even started this 50-hour thing. That's amazing, right? That's something that is really going to make a huge difference, I think, and what's going on. You are part of like the grassroots. You're part of this worldwide movement, and I want you to know that I appreciate that.
That's extremely kind of you, Noah. But we have like 5 tech guys, you know, in the stream making this physically happen. We have dozens of social media admins making that happen, and we have. I'm always really conscious that like I get credit. Like, yeah, okay, I do long hours. Fair enough. I'll give myself that. I'll pat myself on the back for that, you know. And I have some good ideas sometimes, but people could have said to me, "No, you're nuts. You know, I'm only sticking with my Republican friends or my Democrat friends, and that's that." But they didn't. People said, "Yes, let's do away with the divide and conquer. Let's build a unity movement. Let's build a mass movement." And there's people, hundreds of people, literally hundreds of people online in their Discord at any given minute, creating the amazing videos that, you know, you just saw in the break, and the graphics, and writing communications, and just supporting each other. We've got people making music, you name it, you know. So I'm a firm believer in, and maybe this is like a little bit of the anti-capitalist in me, but I'm a firm believer in that every person only has 24 hours in the day, right? So I can work really hard. I could work 20 hours a day, but I can only work as hard as someone else who works 20 hours a day. So I'm really like cognizant of the fact that this is a group effort. And
Absolutely.
it's a group making this happen, because mass movement can't be about just me or, you know, just anyone really. A mass movement is the mass. It's all the people coming together. It's you coming here. When I say, hey, Noah, do you want to come talk on the vigil about Julian Assange? And you're like, hell yeah, I'll drop everything. Yeah, of course I'm going to be there. And you're giving your heart and you're speaking from your heart. And all these people working on the movement, it's their heart that's motivating them. They're not getting paid. And that's one of the points I made last week, actually, on the stream. Sorry, now I'm having a little rant. One of the points I made last week is that these intelligence agencies can't get people to do evil shit for free. They have to spend billions of dollars to do what they do. We can get people to do what we do for free because people know in their hearts it's the right thing to do. And so the payoff for them is in their conscience, in their self-esteem. It's not a monetary payoff in a pay packet. It's them knowing they're doing something historic. They're making the right choice. They're being brave and courageous and making great friends and doing cool stuff. So,
absolutely. You know, like you mentioned that. You know, I'm just thinking. You know, like I'm actually a small business owner, believe it or not, and we make organic body products, right? And we sell it at the market and stuff. And for us, you know, it's like the money's fine. You know, money is a way to like support yourself, right? But I think what's more important is like relationship. You know, it's nice seeing that your hard work is paying off in some little form. You know what I mean? Like that feeling is like the best thing in the world, that hey, look, you know, Suzie, you put in this, and all these people, right? You put in so much hard work to do this. And that feeling to see that, you know, that you're making a difference in this world, that's, you know, that's such a morale booster, you know, and that motivates you to keep working and to keep doing. And, you know, and all of you guys working together, and you're mentioning, you know, coming up with, you know, some of those guys were coming up with new ideas. I saw, you know, they were working to put out like a bunch of tweets like every, you know, so often, depending on what somebody says. Lots of innovative things coming from Team Unity for J. That's what we get in this future when we work together. You know, that is this renaissance that's coming. The old ways of Babylon, of divide and conquer, are over. And they're over because we're not going to allow it to continue anymore. And the more of us that just like, just set it, you know, set aside every division that you've ever seen, set it down. Because you might find that while you might not agree on everything, there's a lot of things you're going to agree on. And, you know, and these are good people. There's good people all over this world. And we need to recognize that, you know, that just because someone's in a different country, you know, that they're not the enemy because some politician says that they're the enemy, right? And oftentimes, well, not oftentimes, all the time, when these politicians decide we're going to go to war somewhere and they try and sell it like everybody in that country is bad, you know, it's the people there that suffer, you know, while everybody else is getting rich and stuff. That's okay, because that's the old way. That's the old way. It's not going to work like that much longer.
And yet, you know, those the people who get rich from it, they are miserable.
Absolutely.
Because they don't have people who love them for the right reasons. They don't have people willing to sacrifice for them. They live in a dog-eat-dog world where anyone will sell anyone at any time. They don't know the simple pleasures of a genuine relationship, the true pleasures.
It's true. And it's all about, this, to me, it always goes back to the kids. Always, like the Hawaiians believe, and I'm sure what is it?
Maori.
Maori, right? In New Zealand, they believe the same thing, that you preserve this earth for like the next 7 generations.
Yes.
You replace what you take, right? You only take what you need. And I think that's a good lesson for everybody, that we need to be looking out for the kids. I really think that's the most important thing, with all the stuff you're saying going on with the, human trafficking. I'm going to try not to go dark with that too much, but I'm just touching on that. Okay. With the stuff you see going on, you can imagine how bad it is. Okay. Those kids grow up. Okay. And I know some of those kids that grew up, that had to deal with that, and they're having to deal with those things in adulthood, right? A lot of times, if they don't have a proper support structure because they've had to go through whatever, they turn into those offenders that at one time they were being abused, so this is what you're seeing, like in Hollywood. You see it in DC, right? They're like, oh, well, this happened to me, and so like, I'm going to do this because this is the way things are. And I feel like that's how it kind of spread, the system of, I don't know, blackmail and darkness all over the place. But it's got to end. It's ending. Sorry, I don't want to go doom and gloom on
That's
that.
good. That actually just made me think about some of these people in the intelligence agencies as being a product of their environment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They're emulating, the executives that came before them.
That's true. And it's kind of hard too, because I think the thing to do, like, that we'd rush and be like, okay, I hate this person because they did this. Okay. I hate this person because, they, I don't know, whatever, insert A here. Okay. I hate this person because they did this. Okay. Well, underneath that person, even though the things that they did are awful, they are a person. And, there's pain everywhere. Doesn't excuse things these people did, but it helps understand, look, people are suffering around the world, and it's important to love one another, because you have more love, you have more support, then this kind of thing happens less, and the people are free.
This reminded me too of what Vivian said, where she was like, easy to hate them, easy to be disdainful of them, but remember Edward Snowden was there, and remember Ray McGovern was there, and these the heroes of the truth-telling movement, of the whistleblower movement, and of independent journalism, many times, in many cases, were them, and were able to overcome it, were able to renounce it, and were able to, as Edward Snowden says, like, I used to work for the government, now I work for the public.
Yeah. See, there's redemption for everyone. Okay. Doesn't make the person bad because of their past, they're going to have to face justice, if they're doing wrong, but it doesn't make them, it doesn't make them not human, I guess is what I would say. And for anybody around the world that wants to admit, what you did that was wrong, I think maybe you'll find some forgiveness. But these people that want to continue to play games and continue to do this evil, I don't know, I'd say we're coming for you. You're going to continue to be exposed. And there's not any way to stop this now. There's too many people. Again, when I have grandma coming to me and telling me stuff like she's like woke AF. You know what I mean? Grandma's telling me stuff. Okay. This wasn't the case 8 years ago. You know, it definitely wasn't. You didn't, like, in this country anyway, like, you didn't, like, the whole thing is shut up, don't ask questions, you know, the media is right. Back when CNN had some kind of credibility, and MSNBC. And now I'm just like looking around the media, and I know it's been like this for a while. I just know, like, we're aware of it now, you know, like how much they've been manipulating us. But like, it's a joke. It's a joke. They just absolutely manufacture and make up stuff, and it's so ridiculous. Like, they just look so ridiculous. Like, when the Onion looks more credible than these people, that says a lot, you know. But, you know, in a way too, like, I would mention Jim Acosta. He was shouted out. He was shouted out at a rally, you know, because everybody's like, CNN sucks, right? That's what they do. But in a way, like, I don't like Jim Acosta, but in a way I feel bad for him too, because it's like, man, that's like, you know, like, you're in front of the vipers, man. They hate you. They hate you with every, like, fiber of their being, and, you know, they're letting you know, and that must be a lonely place.
Yeah, that's really what I was trying to get to before, about how these people don't, no matter how rich or wealthy they are. I mean, the thing is, when you're rich to that extent, those people who are in your life are there not out of loyalty, not out of love, but for money. And
Right.
you really can't buy loyalty. All you can do is buy self-interested people who want you for money. But people who truly love you will go through, you know, walk through fire, go to the ends of the earth for you. And that type of love, it comes down to love. And so many of these people, you can see it written all over their face that they live without love. And as they age, they become a product. It literally is reflected on their face. The lack of love is reflected on their faces. The lack of empathy is reflected on their faces. So in some ways, all you can do is pity them.
Yeah,
But you can also try to educate them, I guess, to show them that there is a different way. There's a different way to live.
absolutely. There's redemption for all. And I think we're getting close toward time, aren't we?
We're going to swap roles now. You can tell me when the interview's over. You're so used to doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't want to, like, you know, like, you guys were tight on time, so I don't want to, like, go over, because, again, you know, I like to banter, so.
It's so good. Yeah, I find I'm so familiar with and so comfortable with all the guests that I feel like we can just go on and on and on. But we will stick to our humble 50-hour schedule.
Yeah.
And as best we can. Okay, Noah, what's your message for Julian Assange when he gets to see this video one day somehow?
My message for Julian, this is to his mom, to his dad, to his family, okay? Know that you're not alone, okay? We support you. We're praying for you. And by the way, I want to put out worldwide call to prayer for Julian Assange, because, you know, whether you believe in God or you don't, pray for him anyway, because he's worth it, okay? He's worth it. We need to continue to pray for him. This goes to, like, my parents' generation and stuff too, specifically the you know, the people around the world that regularly do intercessory prayer. I'd say pray for Julian Assange, because he needs our prayers. He also needs our support. And know that, you know, you're not alone. You're not alone.
Noah, have you been on our Discord server, our new organizing platform?
I have not.
There is a channel there called Interfaith Solidarity. And it is people of all religions and all spiritual beliefs working together from a spiritual perspective to help Julian. And to
That's
me, it's, yeah, the thing that's so cool about it is it's like the religious version of the Unity platform. And they have religious unity in support of Julian.
Absolutely, because we see it, you know, we see it. He's follows the light. He follows that light. He listened to it, you know, he listened to it, and it's important that we support him, period. And don't ever forget that people support you. That's all I got to say, Julia, and his mom too. Thank you for, you know, thank you for raising a good son, and thank you for, you know, everything you've done to try and make his life better. You know, it's appreciated. The world appreciates it.
Well, thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Noah. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a great friend and an awesome guest.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Y'all take care.